in the zone. Taking a look through Owen's packs here, I can see Ixalan's Binding, Skullduggery. There's a Call to the Feast, which is excellent in Vampires, and an Unfriendly Fire.
So,
taking a look, what do you think, Luis?
Call to the Feast is one of the best cards in the pack, but it is a gold card and a tribal card, which does make it less flexible than something like Pious Interdiction or Unfriendly Fire, or even Skullduggery, which is actually overperformed for
Yeah, you
for
like
a lot
this
of
card.
people. Yeah, I think it is great. So I think that Pious Interdiction is one of the cards Owen's considering the most because red-white aggro is commonly known as one of the best decks, and it goes nicely into black-white vampires as well. So keeping open two completely separate tribes while taking a powerful card that's good in any deck.
4 mana too. How do you feel about the cost of the removal in this set?
The removal's a little expensive, but the fact that you gain 2 life off Pious Interdiction really does make up for that.
All right, let's take a look here. Cobbled Wings pulled to the front of this pack here. We have an Inspiring Cleric as well as a Siren Storm Tamer in this pack. What do you like?
Inspiring Cleric is, I think, the most powerful card. It leaves you open for black-white vampires, but again, Inspiring Cleric is still just a playable card in any deck. A 3-2 that gains you 4 life means if you didn't have a 2-drop, you can play Inspiring Cleric on turn 3 and still be pretty good in that game.
And how relevant is a life gain on Inspiring Cleric?
It's very relevant. This is a fast format, and having your 3-drop do a good job of catching you up is awesome.
Vampires is a cool deck because it has so much incidental life gain, and you're using life in the deck as well in a lot of fun ways.
30 seconds.
All right, Paladin of the Bloodstained, another card that goes very well in Vampire. Sky March Bloodletter in here. Sunrise Seeker as well, pulled to the front for Owen. I see a Desperate Castaways as well as a Deep Root Warrior. What do you think?
So Skymarch Bloodletter and Deeproot Warrior I think are the 2 best cards. Skymarch Bloodletter does commit him to black-white vampires, but he already is kind of leaning that direction because of the Inspiring Cleric. Paladin of the Bloodstained does keep him a little more open. He's not committed to a second color, but the payoff for the Bloodletter is just too high.
And he's going to go ahead and take that Bloodletter 2/2 flyer, which pairs very well with cards like Anointed Deacon.
And so in identifying the open tribe, seeing a Skymarch Bloodletter 3rd is a reasonable sign.
All right, taking a look through this pack here, a Marauding Looter still in the pack, a Ruthless Knave there pulled to the front. Ooh, a Thundering Spineback as well.
So this is not a great pack for Owen. Ruthless Knave is a fine card. It plays well in the Vampire deck because it can turn your Vampire tokens into treasure. Marauding Looter is by far the best card in the pack, so that is a good signal, but it clashes so heavily with his first 3 cards that I just can't imagine him taking it.
Yeah, Owen's going to pick up the Ruthless Knave there, a 3/2 for 2 and a black. You can pay 2 and a black, sacrifice a creature, create 2 treasure artifact tokens, and then if you sacrifice 3, you draw a card.
All right, so Owen's really trying to identify what's open here, and the fact that there's an Anointed Deacon here is a great sign for vampires.
Absolutely, one of my 100% favorite cards in the Vampires deck. Skullduggery still left in the pack as well, and he's going to take it.
So this is a hard pick, and one of the reasons Owen would take Skullduggery over Deacon is that it is more efficient, it's cheaper, and I think it's like a slightly better card. The risk is he's passing an Anointed Deacon, and that might put someone on his left into Vampires if they see a 5th or 6th pick Anointed Deacon.
Costly Plunder in this pack, a Dire Fleet Interloper, which is a fine little 2-drop. He's probably happy to see that.
Well, he's not super thrilled, just there's no vampires in this pack, and Interloper is decent, but it's the 4-drop Menace.
Sorry, the 4-drop Menace, yeah.
It looks like he actually went with a Raider's Wake, which is decent if you can find enough evasive creatures, or in this case, potentially tokens to keep attacking with.
Whenever an opponent discards a card, that player loses 2 life if you've raided. At the beginning of your end step, they have to discard. Taking a look here, Sheltering Light. You've mentioned how much you like combat tricks in this format. What do you think about this card?
I like Sheltering Light. It's a decent card. It's going to trade 1-for-1 with a lot of removal spells, or when 2 similar sized creatures battle, and you get to scry 1. So it's a good amount of efficiency for 1 mana. Also, is the only black or white card in the pack, and Owen's not completely locked in, but I'd be surprised if he strays from black-white at this point, unless he gets a really, really strong signal in another direction.
Crushing Canopy here in this pack, still left in green, a Mark of the Vampire, and a Legion Conquistador. What do you think about Legion Conquistador?
I haven't been thrilled with it. I think it can be playable if you have like 3 of them, but it's still a little clunky. one of the things I really like about Mark of the Vampire in Owen's deck is he just picked up Sheltering Light. That's a nice little combo.
Yeah.
You wait till turn 5, and then you have backup. Because if your Mark of the Vampire creature survives, you're just going to win the game.
And who doesn't like double vampires? All right, let's take a look here. Duress, Queen's Agent in this pack, as well as Grim Captain's Call. Queen's Agent, how do you like this card?
You really don't have room for more than like one in your deck, but it's a fine way to spend 6 mana. It's a little clunky. Ideally, your top slots are taken up by Anointed Deacons, but you can't always have as many of those as you want.
Looming Altasaur, Encampment Keeper left yet in this pack. Ritual, just gained you life. He's just going to take the Encampment Keeper.
Yeah, not super likely to play Encampment Keeper, but it is a 1-drop, and against a decks with lots of 2/1s, it actually can have some good relevance.
Sunrise Seeker left in this pack yet. Pillar of Origins as well as a Demolish. Sunrise Seeker just a little 3/3 Vigilant. When it enters the battlefield, you explore. Costly Plunder is going to be the pickup for Owen here as we round out our first pack. Kind of solidly in black-white. Is that a Queen's Commission?
That is a late
left
Queen's
in the
Commission.
pack? That's incredible. I love that card in Vampires.
So Owen's in an interesting spot here. He is going to be black-white, I think, almost every time from here. He actually doesn't have any vampire payoffs, really. He's got a bunch of ways to make vampires. He passed on the one Anointed Deacon, and he is well set up to be vampires. But I think that there's a chance that someone either, 1 or 2 seats to his left is gonna have seen that Anointed Deacon and the Call to the Feast that he passed pick 1, pack 1, and be thinking that vampires potentially is open, even though Owen was cutting it pretty hard after those cards. So I like Owen's spot. I think that pack 3 is going to be a lot better than pack 2. There's a chance pack 2 works out. If the Deacon and the Call to the Feast floated a couple spots, maybe he's okay. But I think that it's fairly likely that pack 2 is going to be somewhat cut on vampires.
So when you talk about payoffs for the Vampires deck, what are you really hoping for to make the best use of what Owen has set up here?
In terms of commons, Anointed Deacon by far.
Yeah.
It's the card that makes your 1/1 lifelinkers into 3/1 lifelinkers, or makes your Skymarch Bloodletter hit for 4 in the air. In terms of higher rarity cards, you have something like Sanctum Seeker at rare is probably the best overall payoff.
Oh yeah.
And for the most part, Vampires is not as strongly allied of a tribe as something like Merfolk, but you still do want a critical mass of Vampires in order to make sure that the few payoffs you have do really work.
Owen could also be looking to pick up a card like Territorial Hammerskull, for instance, which is a dinosaur, but could work very well in his deck too.
Right. Territorial, Hammerskull, Pious Interdiction, Contract Killing, Vanquish the Weak. These are all just good cards that Owen would be happy to pick up in his colors.
All right, so getting ready here for pack 2 for Owen Turtenwald. Just given how his first pack went, how do you think he's feeling, Luis?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I think Owen's probably feeling around a 7 here.
All right, taking a look here, we have a Vanquish the Weak, Fell Flagship pulled to the front there. We have a happy little Stegosaurus that's ready to do damage with its butt. Steadfast Armosaur as well, which is a card that has been pretty impressive for me, but Vanquish the Weak, just a solid removal spell.
Yeah, there's also a Bishop with a Bloodstain, which is a vampire payoff, but because Vanquish is just overall such a powerful card, I suspect he's going to start with Vanquish, and he really hopes he can float the Bishop, he can wheel it, right around the table. I think that there's going to be one other Vampires player at this table. I don't think Owen's he's not the only vampire that, in the game of Werewolf here, he is a wolf. So, I think there's another one. But I do believe that Owen is well set up, and I think he feels okay about this.
All right, taking a look here at what Owen was passed, I see a Goring Ceratops as the rare in this pack. Another Skymarch Bloodletter in here as well. Rallying Roar, a card that can be really good if you pick up numerous Queen's Commissions, but he's just going to take the Bloodletter.
Yeah, one of the things about Vampires is the fallback is just a solid black-white, like mid-rangey deck. And what it makes up for in terms of its lack of speed is the fact that a lot of its cards have incidental life gain. Bloodletters only gain you 1, but that's still a decent amount if you play a couple of them over the course of the game. Inspiring Clark gains you 4, has a bunch of life linkers, so you can end up in a position where you're able to blunt the really fast aggressive draws from other players and just kill them with flyers like Bloodletter.
All right, here we go. Third pack. We've got a Spreading Rot in the front, a Kite Sail Freebooter he's pulled to the front, as well as another Queen's Commission in this pack, a Lurking Chupacabra, which he's not really on that plan. He's just going to take the Freebooter.
Yeah, and he's passing up on the second Skullduggery as well, but Kite Sail Freebooter is just a very effective card. Not only does it kind of temporarily delay one of their good spells, you also get to see their whole hand and kind of craft your game plan as a response.
And it can be something of a lightning rod too.
Especially when you have a card like Sheltering Light, able to play Kite Sail Freebooter and protect it with Sheltering Light when they go for the removal spell.
You have 25 seconds. Pick up your pack.
Taking a look here in the next pack for Owen, I see a Queen's Bay Soldier and a Bishop's Soldier, which is just one of the hallmark cards I think you need at 2.
Yeah, it's one of the perfect 2-drops for vampires. Just a solid 2/2, and the lifelink really does add up, especially if he picks up, again, an Anointed Deacon at some point here, or even something like Pirate's Cutlass. I found that card to be quite effective in the vampires deck. You don't get the free equip, but putting a +2/+1 equipment on lifelinkers is very good.
Oh yeah, when you're sitting across the table from a Bishop's Soldier, you're just like, well, that thing is lifelink, so I've got to get rid of it. Foil Swamp in the pack here for Owen. It's a sign. Taking a look through here, we have Arguel's Bloodfast, some Deadeye Plunderers still in the pack, Ritual of Rejuvenation, and a Legion's Judgment.
And Legion's Judgment is a good sideboard card. Arguel's Bloodfast is as well. Arguably, it's enough better against control that you want it over the Legion's Judgment.
All right, he's going to take the Bloodfast here. Why do you think this card is good in the sideboard?
Because it lets you pay life to draw cards in against a deck that's not pressuring your life total. That gives you a significant advantage. It's less good if your opponent's beating you down.
All right, another Raider's Wake here left in the pack, as well as a Costly Plunder and another Encampment Keeper. Another Dire Fleet Interloper as well.
The second Raider's Wake is a little hard to use. You really don't want to draw 2 because your opponent just runs out of cards in hand. But it is a very powerful effect.
He's just going to pick the Dire Fleet Interloper, 2/2 Menace for 4 with Explore.
Another advantage to picking the Arguel's Bloodfast last pick, by the way, is because it's a double-faced card, other players at the table do see that you have picked it.
Sure.
And that is a signal that Owen is not only playing black, but potentially playing vampires because that card is better with all that life gain.
Is signal sending something you're still thinking about at this point in the draft?
It's better to send that signal than not, I think. It could be a tiebreaker for someone who's undecided. It's unlikely to really change a whole lot, but it's a little bit of extra value.
So it looked like Owen just picked up Ranging Raptors there, denying somebody else at the table the card. Costly Plunder, still in this pack, One with the Wind as well.
That's a late One with the Wind and late
Yes.
Tempest Caller. Looks like aggressive blue decks might be few and far between at this table.
All right, One with the Wind. Owen will just take that card away from somebody. It's really hard to play against, especially if it ends up on a Jade Guardian. Build your own boggles. Steadfast Armasaur left in this pack here for Owen. Do you think that card's going to make the cut, Luis?
Yeah, I think he's probably going to end up playing it. Again, Owen's not really a heavily tribal deck right now. He's actually got no cards that care about a specific tribe. So he's going to just want a collection of good cards in his deck, and Steadfast Armasaur does the job.
Crushing Canopy in this deck, Goring Ceratops as well. Just going to take the Crushing Canopy to keep it from somebody else as he has those Bloodletters.
Yeah, and Goring Ceratops, a little too expensive to really be a high pick here.
All right, Costly Plunder as well as Spreading Rot and a Primal Amulet. He's just going to take Spreading Rot.
Yeah, the niche application for Spreading Rot is killing the flip lands.
Oh.
You flip, like
Yes.
Frescanta or Vance's Blasting Cannons, and Spreading Rot can take it out.
If you get Vance's Blasting Cannons with Spreading Rot, you've really done it.
Yeah, you do feel like you got there.
There's another one. He also picked up a Field of Ruin, which also destroys non-basic lands. All right, there you have it. Pack 2 for Owen Turtenwald. He's going to take a look through what he's picked so far. Luis, how do you feel about how his deck's shaping up?
Well, I think Pack 3 is going to end up being better because he's not gotten a lot of cards out of Pack 2 here. He got Vanquish the Weak and Kite Sail Freebooter, but for the most part, these are not vampire-specific cards. I do think someone is taking Vampire's cards from him, but Pack 3 should be a lot better.
So Vanquish the Weak, I just want to talk about this card for a second. Destroy target creature with power 3 or less. It hits so much in this format that you want to kill.
Yeah, this is a fast format. People are prioritizing cards that cost 2 and 3 mana, and that can kill all the cards that cost 2 or 3 pretty much. Even hits a lot of the 4-drops.
Yeah, Shining Aerosaur just shoots that thing right out of the sky.
So Owen's deck is solid. He's got the solid base. Like, if he picks up 2 vampire incentives, then he's going to have a solid vampires deck. If not, he can still just have a good black-white mid-range deck. Got the 4, 5, and 6 mana explore creatures. Argo's Bloodfast might actually make it into the main deck, depending on how much life he ends up with.
Taking a look through here as Owen reviews his final picks in the moments before pack 3. Sitting in his seat, I'd probably feel pretty good. It's a nice base, like you said, and he's got one more pack yet to find those vampire payoffs. What is the number one thing you're hoping to open, Luis, if you're sitting in Owen's seat?
Probably Sanctum Seeker, though honestly, like opening Hostage Taker or Vraska, and just splashing one of those cards would not be completely out of the question. Those cards are just the best cards in the set. Though I guess Vona, Butcher of Magan is probably the overall best card.
All right, Owen here laying out pack 3.
But honestly, he would be satisfied. You know, even just picking up 2 Anointed Deacons in this pack, I think he would be pretty happy.
Vampire Zeal as well, a combat trick that's really impressed me. None yet in Owen's deck.
Yeah, he hasn't even seen a single one of those in the draft, I don't think.
I don't think I've seen one either. There's a look. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If it's a vampire, gains first strike. All right, here we go. A Pterodon Knight. At the top of this pack, I see a Contract Killing as well as a Queen's Bay Soldier and a Bishop Soldier.
He's just going to go with the Contract Killing here. It's unconditional removal. His deck could use some more 2-drops, but honestly, he's not lacking that much given that he's got some good defensive cards in his deck.
Contract Killing, a card that can also help you splash if you really want to.
Yeah, Owen's not very likely to splash at this point, but if he randomly got past Vraska, Relic Seeker, Hostage Taker, or something along those lines, which isn't super likely, but if it did happen, he would look at it.
Yeah, perfectly fine pickup there for Owen in Contract Killing, which some players have told me is their favorite common of the set. Taking a look there is our first Vampire Zeal that we've seen. Githoth in the pack as well, which is way too many colors. Deathless Ancient if he wants to pick up kind of a vampire payoff.
And one of the interesting things about Deathless Ancient as well is it gives Owen a finisher. He doesn't have a way to close out games right now. And despite having his Contract Killing, Vanquish the Weak, Pious Interdiction, a lot of good removal, but Deathless Ancient is perfect because it gives him a way to finish off the opponent, and it's very hard to kill. He's got enough vampires that he can bring it back.
Really flavorful. Deathless Ancient just comes right back if you tap 3 untapped vampires you control, returning it from your graveyard to your hand. Oh, by the way, it's a 4/4 flyer. Taking a look through this pack here, a Raptor Companion, 3/1 for 2. The Legion's Judgment I see hiding back there, and he's just going to pick up the Raptor Companion.
Yeah, disappointing pack. This is really not what you want to be third picking here.
Yeah, there's not a lot for him in there. There's a Queen's Agent in at the back, but like you said, probably only want one.
And picking up the Deathless Ancient may even have bumped that Queen's Agent out of his deck. He might play both depending on what his curve ends up looking like, but he does not have room for another one, certainly.
Kinjali's Collar, a Bishop's Soldier, which is a great pickup for Owen here.
Another 2-drop, especially one with lifelink. Argyle's Bloodfast might be getting closer and closer to the deck now. It's not a card I tend to like all that much, but Owen has the confluence of a bunch of lifelinkers, an Inspiring Cleric, a bunch of removal spells, and not that many ways to close out the game. The Bloodfast does give him a way to draw 3 or 4 cards and maybe overrun the opponent with card advantage.
How much lifelink are you hoping to run before you run a card like the Bloodfast?
I would want like 4 or 5 ways to gain life, I think.
Shadowed Caravel is in the pack here. Encampment Keeper as well. There's a pretty late Pounce and a Depths of Desire.
Yeah, this pack is not going well for Owen. It's possible he's getting cut from both sides, or just the packs aren't hospitable to vampires, because this pack has no cards that are going to make Owen's main deck. He's trying to figure out which card to hate draft now.
All right, it looks like it's going to be Pounce that he's going to pick up out of this pack, keeping it from another player. And sure enough, Pounce, there it goes. Taking a look here for Owen, what we've got left. Oh, Pious Interdiction.
That's a late Pious Interdiction, so that is a good pickup. So, again, it could just be that the way the packs broke, that he ended up, breaking last pack, but then getting a late Pious Interdiction this pack.
Yeah, good enough for pack 1, pick 1. Certainly good enough now, Pious Interdiction. Enchanted creature can attack or block, and you gain 2 life, which is definitely something Owen is looking for in his deck. There's a Slash of Talons in this pack, and a Duress, as well as a Bellowing Aegisaur.
Could see taking the Aegisaur just because it does have a pretty high upside, but Slash of Talons is likely just efficient enough that Owen's going to go with the 1-drop.
Slash of Talons is the pick, dealing 2 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. Just a really nice little removal spell for 1 single white mana.
I think this is the last chance for Owen to pick up an Anointed Deacon, and I
Yeah.
think, given the end of the draft, I think he wishes he had the Deacon over the Skullduggery that he took over it.
Sunrise Seeker, Desperate Castaways, and yet another Pounce in this pack. He is going to pick up Desperate Castaways, probably not going to make the cut, can't attack or block unless you can, or can't attack unless you control an artifact. Rummaging Goblin left here, Queen's Bay Soldier, just a 2/2 for 2. The bear of the set, and that is going to be the pickup.
I don't think Owen got a single card besides Deathless Ancient that cares about the creature type Vampire. So he is a Vampire deck in quotes, but not really a Vampire deck. He's got Deathless Ancient. Other than that, and maybe a
there we
Vampire
go.
Zeal. So he's got a couple things that care about vampires, but really it's very, very, very light.
Vampire Zeal, target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. It's a vampire, gains first strike. Definitely a card that you've got to be aware of in this draft format. Field of Ruin in here, Spike-tailed Ceratops, Pirate's Prize, and an Ancient Brontodon. Nothing left for him. Pillar of Origins, a Ritual of Rejuvenation. Owen's just kind of winding things down here as he takes Prosperous Pirates. Belligerent Brontodon left in here, as well as a Prying Blade. Just going to pick up the Brontodon, and he's got his final card, Ryle. And there you have it, Owen Turtenwald's draft here at the 2017 World Championship. Luis, what are your thoughts?
I think this is a decent deck. I don't think Owen is going to be too unhappy with it, but this is not a deck that he's like really pumped about after the draft.
So welcome back to the desk. Rich alongside Maria and Luis. Luis, I'd like to thank you for one of the all-time great phrases. In there, you talked about Owen wanting vampire incentives. Now, I jotted down, my first 2 thoughts were drink blood, live forever. But I don't think that's what you meant.
Not so much, but I guess Owen could go for that too.
What are vampire incentives?
Cards like Anointed Deacon, cards like Vampire Zeal, cards like Sanctum Seeker, cards that say, I care about creatures that have the type of vampire.
Right, so we would often talk about payoffs. That would be another version of that, because, you know, we throw these terms around at you, and I thought, vampire incentives, I like that. Yeah, very good. All right, now, look, over those 2 drafts, Luis, we saw what felt like a bit of a struggle for both players, right? Every pick felt like hard work, no, oh, thank you so much, no super bomb rare. It was always like 1 tier down. Was the table not that exciting? Was it just that everyone's picking every good card earlier and earlier, so they just disappear? What happened?
I didn't see for either of the players a huge upside for being somewhere else, and I think actually Owen was in the right colors. Just so happened he didn't see too many of the vampire incentives that you so love, and at the end of it, I think Owen's deck is good. I like his deck more than Martin's for sure.
All right, well, that wraps up our draft coverage. Round 1, only a few minutes away. We'll be right back after these messages.